This video isn't going to be a brain dump of generic content ideas. I spent months watching what was working for many up-and-coming creators over a wide variety of industries. And there are some common things that stood out. I tested those same theories and I'm finally ready to share. This is my full-on strategy for making carousels the most effective tool for follower growth, engagement, and conversions. Before you create content, you need to know what type of content you're putting out into the world. And if you are an online educator, you are a content creator that teaches what you know, you need to go into this with a plan. Are you going to teach in this post, or are you simply entertaining? Step-by-step basic tips are just not cutting it anymore. Educational carousels need a unique angle or fresh perspective or counterintuitive take that's just different from the other kind of content people are consuming. If they can Google it, that's not what they want to be seeing in your content. Now, you don't have to be an entertainment type creator to be entertaining your audience. Entertainment does far more than just give someone a good laugh. This is helping someone feel seen, understood, or inspired. And if someone's biggest takeaway is, oh my God, they get me, you are doing something right because it's helping build trust in your business. Ultimately, your authority is built on how you frame your content. Boring, recycled advice doesn't grow audiences. Originality does. Next up, we want to pick the style of posts that you're going to put out there. There are 5 main types of carousels that are seriously dominating Instagram right now, and I'm going to dive into all of them. First up are confession carousels. These are personal, relatable stories. These are the text-heavy, raw, I can't believe she just said that posts that drive insane engagement. Quick examples that might apply to you. The biggest mistake I made in my business that cost me a lot of money. I swore I'd never do this, but this is what changed my mind. Here's what I do differently if I were starting over from scratch. But seriously, think about the thing that would shock someone if you actually said it out loud. And I think these posts are great examples of saying the quiet part out loud. I'm talking about not recognizing myself in the mirror, both literally for how I'm looking, but also in my business and feeling disoriented and where I'm at in my journey after being in business for 10 years. Or this other post where I talk about how much it bothers me that the best way to drive engagement is to be controversial or cause drama. And I don't like to do that. That's not who I am. Or Andrea, who's calling out the things that are common and other people will understand as a solo business owner. She's talking about herself as we are an interior design studio, but it's actually just her and her laptop. So many people, regardless of the stage of their journey, are going to feel heard and understood by that content. They get it. They're doing the same thing. They're talking about themselves like they're some big business, and it's just them and their laptop. Next up, we have personality carousels. These are a little bit different because they're not as mindset driven or emotionally driven. These are allowing people into your world, the characters in your world, the places in your world, the way in which you like to show up. This is connecting with you as an individual and like your vibe and aesthetic, and can be such a fun way to have people follow you, because people don't follow brands, they follow people. And these carousels help build a stronger relationship with your audience. So it could be as simple as a photo dump from your weekend. It could be things you're loving right now, like a set of books or products. You could be sharing more of your personal routines or hobbies or things you're doing behind the scenes. These have been some of my most engaged with posts, which as a small business owner sometimes can feel a little bit frustrating because I'm like, this is not the content that is selling my offers. But that doesn't always matter. You need content that helps you build real relationships because people buy from people. And so I loved putting some of these posts out into the world. The first one was about flowers, and I was rating different types of flowers and giving them a scale of 1 through 10 and talking about it in a way that I felt like my husband would understand in advance of Valentine's Day because I didn't want him to screw this up. And he did excellent, by the way. My shit I pinned for vibes post was literally a set of pins I'd recently pinned on Pinterest that I just felt like illustrated where I'm at, the kinds of things I'm working on and thinking about, how I want to build out my home. And I'm a creator that shared a lot about my personal life and my personal journey, including renovating 2 homes. So it felt very in alignment for the types of things I've shared in the past, but was an easy post for me to put out there that allowed me to connect with my audience, especially on a day that wasn't a work day. Amuse Design Studio did a very similar type of thing, and she was showing actual video behind the scenes, but she was putting captions on top of the video that really talked about why it felt like her. And it felt like you were friend on FaceTime with her or a friend who had walked into that retail shop with her, and it allowed you to feel connected. Highly savable carousels tend to be the kind of content people think of when they think about educators, when they think about content creators that are sharing digital products and courses, or service providers that are trying to showcase their expertise so that someone wants to hire them one-on-one. But they're a little bit different than they were a number of years ago. You used to be able to get away with sharing some very basic things. These need to be going beyond a step-by-step and either be super unique to your take or super reference-worthy content, i.e. someone wants to come back to this. It is so good that someone wants to save it for later and refer to it down the road because it's going to help them accomplish something. In my experience, some of the hooks that tend to work well for this are really showcasing that you're taking work off someone's plate. You're saving them time or making them money. And the kind of value you provide is going to be radically different depending on the type of content that you're sharing. I help people build digital products and ultimately take their knowledge and package it up and put it out there in a way that's going to allow them to get paid to bring in qualified leads for their other offers. So my type of posts need to attract people that are interested in selling one-to-many. So that's what the first post is doing. Jenny Fears talks way more specifically about growing on social. And so you're going to find content that's very related to giving people advice to do the kinds of things she's also selling. So she's not afraid to give away the kitchen sink. She's giving people actionable advice that they can use right now, even without paying her. And when it works, it's building that trust so they want to come back for more. Brighton Maid Studio is a graphic designer. She has her own design studio where she is doing custom branding for people. And the interesting thing about her account is she does kind of have 2 audiences. She has an audience of people that are interested in potentially working with her or are past clients, but she also has quite a few additional designers that also follow her content. And so I felt like her trend report was a really interesting way to hit both audiences at the same time. She's appealing to other designers, talking about the kinds of things she's seeing as trending and what we will see more of in terms of colors and shapes and styles. But for someone who is considering working with her, this is an opportunity to see, is the brand I'm considering too trendy? Or is it going to be more timeless? And maybe you want trendy. There's nothing wrong with that, but it gives an opportunity to have a thoughtful discussion. Next up, we have highly shareable carousels. These tend to go over topics like pop culture, trending topics or news events, or other relatable moments. These posts are designed to get people to tag their friends or reshare because it feels timely. And timely is a huge part of this, relatable or universally funny. You might cover something like relatable moments in your industry, like client emails that make me want to quit, or you might take a pop culture tie-in that's relevant right now, what Barbie taught me about business. I realized Barbie was sort of a trending topic last year, but nonetheless, it was an easy example. Or you can pull from things like news. What's happening right now that affects you and your industry? Now, there's a really big pro and con that is the same for all highly shareable carousels. They have a really short shelf life. They are going to be really big in a specific moment in time and then not be relevant. So, for example, this post I did about TikTok is already back online, and it was sharing a news article and had like specific clips of press releases and things. That was super relevant for like 2 hours on one particular day. But those 2 hours, this got shared over 100 times. It was very, very relevant. Good Type appeals to other people in the design space, and they did one that was timely because we were going into Valentine's Day, and so they were sharing Valentine's cards that would appeal to other designers. It was like, if you get it, you get it, but it only made sense for the week leading up to the holiday. Now, I think Sunday Scaries tends to have a little more universally funny or things that could be shared again and again, but they do tend to do it on a cycle. So if you go to their page, you might notice that they post the same type of content every single Sunday and the same type of content every single Friday. And it's very thematic because it's following the days of the week and how people are showing up for work. So they are still posting things in a timely manner, so it's shareable in this moment. But in theory, you could come back to the same post a week or a month later and it might still be relevant. That being said, they do tend to have a lot of pop culture references or other things that are super seasonal, and that doesn't make them always have as long of a shelf life as what is in my next set. The last type of carousel that pops off are what I call low effort, high impact. These are simple. They tend to be things like quote decks or memes. They have familiarity. They tie into people's emotion. They feel shareable. And there's kind of different ways you can ultimately do the same thing. Like you could take the same quote but have a different aesthetic or a different color and do it multiple times. You could also do it progressive, where the first slide has some sort of intriguing statement and then all of the following slides either build upon it or answer the question in a different way. Or you could do some sort of themed variations where a single concept is expressed in a couple of different varieties. Now, the thing here is you don't want to just copy and paste some random motivational quote. That's not going to really do much for you. Take a phrase from your own content or the types of things that you've shared in a podcast or blog post or even a DM. Something that feels like you, almost a you catchphrase, because ultimately, if you can get someone to tie this concept back to you, it's going to go a lot further than some generic quote that they just saved because they liked it. In all three of these examples, they have radically different styles. New Happy Co. tends to have a little bit more of that, and what I would call a little more techie, a little more modern, whereas Wild House Paper is obviously has a different aesthetic. It's going to appeal to a potentially different audience. And then Dear Beautiful Friend, they are using handwritten notes, and you'll find there's quite a few accounts out there where this is all they do, and they are solely posting this type of content. If it is not all you do because you're running a business, I do think you having a format that feels familiar, so that even if you change it up or do it a week later or a month later, that people start to associate the style of post with you, it's going to make a big difference in actually reinforcing who you are, what you stand for, and why they should care. But with all that in mind, let's craft the perfect post. The first slide, you gotta nail it. The first image is absolutely everything. It determines whether someone swipes away or scrolls away. I want you to think of it as a YouTube thumbnail or a subject line of an email. It needs to stop someone in their tracks. I think there's a lot of different ways you can do this. It can be with bold, attention-grabbing text. It can be a thought-provoking question or make a strong statement. It could be an image that creates curiosity, emotion, or tension, or gets people scratching their heads. I wonder what's inside. If first slide isn't instantly compelling, your post is not going to perform, no matter how great the rest of the carousel is. Now, there are some benefits to carousels, and that if someone does swipe, Instagram will potentially show them the same post again. But if they ignore it and scroll on by, they're not likely to see it again. So you really have to hit someone on the head. So notice all of these have a hook. It's getting someone to go, oh, I want to know more. Like 1 week of launch emails. Who gives away 1 week of launch emails? People always charge for that. So that would stop the scroll. How much should you post for max growth? Well, now you got me curious. How much should I post for max growth? Now, Alune Creative, she is specifically speaking to someone who has a pain point, struggling with Canva's background remover. If you're struggling with it, you're going to be like, yeah, tell me, how do I fix this? I need help. It's going to get you to stop. The person who sent you this thinks you're hot. Hello, this is so funny. Like, I want to know what it says, / who do I want to send it? Like, do I want to send it to my spouse? Like, is it going to be cute? And you know, people want in on that. Girls That Invest, I love the transparency and the shocking bit of transparency. And so she says, I believe in financial transparency. Here's my investment portfolio going into 2025. That's a level of transparency you rarely see online, and it's definitely going to get someone to stop. Now, clearly I have a lot of design references. That's where my background is. I spent over a decade in design. So shades of brown I'm currently obsessed with would absolutely get me to stop. Maybe not you, but it does me. I want you to think about every carousel like a narrative, like a story. You want someone to swipe through to the next. And the trick to get them to do that is to do sequential storytelling. If you think about it like a picture book, like you're reading a child a picture book, there's almost like a mini cliffhanger on every page that gets you to keep on turning. But you can end with a curiosity invoking statement. You can say something that gets someone to think, gets someone to say, yes, that's me. You can get them wondering what's next. There's lots of ways to incorporate story, but I have found that it doesn't necessarily have to be this beautiful, overly aesthetic thing. It can feel in the moment and raw, and that can still be super compelling. Think of it a little bit like pacing for a song. If it's, you ended the verse, how are you starting the next one? That kind of follows the same flow. It's almost like you're reading a poem. It has this rhythmic quality to it that gets you to want to go to the next slide. This is your opportunity to break down concepts into digestible pieces, leaving space for visual breathing room, and get someone to keep going, because the longer they engage, the bigger signal this is to Instagram to boost your reach even further. Now, real quick, let's talk about branding, because I've seen a shift and I'm noticing a new trend that's coming, and I think it's really important that we point it out. That in-app feel is something that should make it look like it was built in 5 minutes, even if it wasn't, and that you just quickly threw it up. Think of it like a text on a photo, screenshots, or that it looks like there's screenshots, very minimal effort. There was this huge rise using templates for social, which I totally get. I run a template shop. I create templates all the time for my clients. What started to happen is everyone started to look the same, and people are bored. People instead want to feel like they're connected to an individual. So rather than using a trendy Canva template, I want you to create a recognizable aesthetic that is specific to your brand only. This can be a consistent color scheme, fonts, layouts. It needs to be instantly recognizably you. You don't have to have it all figured out day one. You can experiment with different posts until you feel like you've landed on it. But here's 3 different creators and 3 different aesthetics that if I were scrolling, I would instantly know who posted it. But you absolutely do not have to start from scratch, and you do not have to look generic. I have so many templates that are ready and waiting for you at creativetemplateshop.com. They are going to help you develop that signature style. They are very easy to swap out photos, colors, and fonts, but all the layouts are beautifully done. They're very timely and on trend. The goal is sales. We have one more step that we really need to do and utilize the right call to action for maximum engagement. The last slide of your carousel should never be a dead end. A strong call to action, regardless of the type of post, is super effective in taking engagement and converting that into sales. I use a method where I'm using a keyword or phrase to boost engagement. Someone's going to comment something like playbook, and then when they comment that, it's going to automatically send them a DM with the link to find out more. Now, I show you my exact text setup for this 2-click funnel inside Instagram Profit Playbook, and you can find out more at creativetemplateshop.com/playbook. For your more personality-driven posts, not everything needs a call to action. And I know some people are going to feel strongly that I'm wrong. And that's okay. You don't have to agree with me. But I promise you, if the post is deeply resonating, people will naturally share, save, or explore your profile. So sometimes leaving them wanting more is the best move. I definitely didn't want to leave you hanging. I have so many more ideas where that came from. So I wanted to give you a whole month of done for you carousel content. You can download my free 30-day plan by going to bossproject.com/IG-30. Make sure you like and subscribe so you can come back for more educational content that's made for you and your online business.